What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the Mig-21 BIS and whether or not it's overpowered in War Thunder. And as a counter argument, really, I'm going to be looking at the F4E Phantom as well. So it's kind of going to be like a side-by-side comparison video. Real quick, in the background, I'm going to have one 5-kill F4E Phantom gameplay, and then also one 5-kill Mig-21 BIS gameplay, but not really going to be talking about the gameplay at all. Also, little disclaimer, I have organized my thoughts and main points on a separate Google Doc, so you're probably going to hear some mouse clicking and stuff in the background. I apologize for that in advance, but anyways, let's get into the comparison. Start off, I'm going to throw up my stats for the F4 and the Mig-21 BIS on screen here, just kind of like validate myself, I guess, for being able to talk about it. But you can see here my F4 kill death ratio is at over a 2.0. I have about a 50% win rate on it in 34 matches played. So yeah, I haven't played that many games in the Phantom, but all that should mean is I shouldn't be doing that well. The Phantom is almost stock for me. I actually just unlocked the engine upgrade. I went for the engine as quick as I could, and I went for the AIM-9Js as quick as I could. So I don't even have all of the performance upgrades. I have the absolute necessities, and I'm running it on AIM-9Js only. Now right here you can see my Mig-21 BIS stats. I've got just over 230 matches played, near an 80% win rate, and at the time of this screenshot I have a 5-to-1 kill death ratio. Now you might be looking at that scratching your head because that makes absolutely no sense if this game was balanced. At top tier you should be fighting just about the best players that the game has to offer, and you should not be getting 5.0 kill death ratios in your planes even if you're a really good player. I'd consider myself an above average player, but a 5-to-1 KD at top tier is inexcusable really. And also an 80% win rate? Like, the BIS has gotta be OP, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that it isn't, and hear me out. Look at the two win rates for these planes. The BIS is at an 80% for me. The F4 Phantom is near a 50% for me. Now, if it was entirely the fault of the BIS, then the Phantom's win rate should be at about a 20%, because considering my BIS is at an 80, fill in the margin difference there, and that's going to be 20. The Phantom should be at a 20% win rate. But it's at 50, which is right where a plane really should be if it's a balanced aircraft. So right there already is kind of a head scratcher. This kind of shows that I do have an impact on my team's win rate. As I said, I think I'm above average player. Not to sound super egotistical, but if it were entirely down to the two jets and not the pilot, then if the BIS was really getting an 80% win rate, then the Phantom should be really getting a 20% win rate. And as you can see, that's just not the case. Now, some of you are probably sitting there thinking, so what? The Phantom has a completely normal and balanced win rate, and the Mig-21 BIS is still performing about 30% better than it should be, realistically and ideally speaking. And you would be right, but at the same time, is that the fault of the BIS, or is it the fault of other factors? Now that we've compared both aircraft stats, at least my stats with them, now we can kind of get into why the Mig-21 BIS maybe has the 30% extra win rate there. And I'm going to start out by comparing them as aircraft and as fighters. Now I am going to make the distinction here because the Mig-21 BIS is undoubtedly, indisputably the better aircraft. It's faster than the Phantom, it'll turn better than the Phantom, it'll outclimb the Phantom. There's really nothing that the BIS doesn't do better than the Phantom except maybe energy retention, but that's only because the BIS turns so damn well that it bleeds speed way quicker. But those of you who have extensive top tier experience in Missile Thunder would know that the aircraft's performance doesn't really equate to if it's good or not. It is of my opinion that yes, the performance matters, but it's only as good as the weapon systems and utility that the aircraft has to go with it. And I think the Phantom wins hands down in every single one of those categories. The Phantom has way more flares than the BIS. It's got better RWR. It's more exact RWR. It's got a better radar for the radar weapons if you're using radar weapons. And it also has better IR missiles. Now, it's kind of what do you call it? A disputed fact whether or not the AIM-9J or the R60 is the better missile. In my opinion, I don't even know if it's an opinion. I think it's kind of provable, but the AIM-9J pulls way harder than the R60. It tracks a whole hell of a lot better, and it's also significantly faster. Now, being faster can be a detriment to your missile in certain situations, but in general, the faster missile is genuinely, it's a good thing if your missile is faster than another one. I'll probably go into that a little bit more on how to use missiles in a different video, but generally speaking, the faster a missile is, the better it'll be. The most significant difference between the F4 and the Mig-21 when it comes to firepower is going to be in the guns. A lot of people overlook the guns on these top tier jets because it's all about the missiles, right? But there's still plenty of times and plenty of places where you're going to need to use guns for a gun kill, and the F4 undoubtedly has the upper hand in that respect. It's got a way higher velocity cannon, the M61. You don't have to be nearly as good at aiming, and you get a much more forgiving shot window. You can pull a lot more crazier shots than with the MiG-23, just because your cannon requires less lead. On top of that, when you do hit, you're firing so many goddamn bullets, you're probably going to incinerate the plane if you get hits on target. I've noticed that the M61 does significantly more damage. I don't know if that's more damage per shot or just because more shots are hitting the target at once. Regardless, the M61 is going to do more damage, and it kind of leaves the MiG's guns inferior in just about every way. In fact, I would go as far as to say the MiG-21's guns are actually bad, because not only are they near impossible to aim at high speed, high aspect shots, but even if you do hit, you're going to get either hits, sparks, or some useless ass critical hit that doesn't even cripple the plane and they just keep flying away. I rarely ever get a one trigger burst kill with the MiG-21. Most of my gun kills come from low speed, a lot of time on target trigger pulls where you're just like pretty much hitting the target with just about everything in your magazine. But yeah, I mean, the MiG-21 guns are very underwhelming, especially compared to the Vulcan. So logically speaking, where's the MiG-21 strengths? I mean, it's got this 80% win rate for not just me, but I know a lot of players have very high win rates in the MiG-21. What's it got going for it? Really, it's got performance and 6 average missiles. That's about all it's got going for it, but we're going to talk about here in a second. That's really all you need when you're dealing with 10.7 War Thunder. And here's why. After playing both sides and playing against both planes, I can confidently say that the MiG pilots are almost always better than the Allied teams. A lot of Allied teams have F4 pilots carrying bombs, thinking that they can just go ahead and hit a quick bomb target and then go fighter mode. That's not how it works. If you're taking bombs in your Phantom, you're putting you and your team at immediate disadvantage in air-to-air combat, and it's ultimately going to result in your team losing however much firepower is equal to how many players are carrying bombs on their plane. So let's just say it's a 12v12 match, and you have 12 F4 pilots and 12 MiG-21 pilots, which never happens, which we're going to talk about again in a second. But it's 12v12, and 3 of those F4 pilots have bombs on their plane. Well, now it's a 9 versus 12, because yeah, they think that they can just go hit the base and go fighter mode, but what really happens is they get picked off while they're rushing straight into the middle of combat, and they get a whole lot of MiGs to follow them. They're too focused on their bomb targets, they're going too slow, they're too immaneuverable because of all the extra weight, and they just get blown out of the sky. So, I mean, right there, most games for the Allies start at a disadvantage. On top of that, F4 pilots seem to be painfully spread out during games. Next time you fly out in top tier, I want you to really pay attention to this. If you're flying on the MiG team, they're pretty much always stuck together. They get in fights together, they get into a furball together, they do everything together. On the flip side, the Allied team with all the Phantoms on it, you have pockets of planes in pretty much every part of the map, and what that allows the MiGs to do is focus one little group at a time so that they can take on people 8 versus 3, they slaughter them, they move on to the next 8 versus 3, and so on until they've pretty much outnumbered every single fight that they get in. And oftentimes in your Phantom, you're going to end up finding yourself 1 versus 8 or whatever it may be, because your team just dies all around you because they have no chance of winning the fight. By the time help arrives, the players that the MiGs have already attacked are pretty much down to 0 in numbers, and they just move on to the next group, and that happens continuously until the MiGs have killed everyone. Now, the final and most solid point here, in my opinion, that I think I'm going to make is going to come down to the Matchmaker. This is pretty much the biggest reason why the MiGs are performing so well in terms of victories. It's really just because of the teams and what the Matchmaker puts you up against. The MiGs are pretty much always with Germans, Russians, Chinese, if there is any Chinese, and Great Britain. Those are consistently all on the same team. And then the Americans are pretty much always with Japan and France. However, France and Sweden oftentimes kind of rotate around to whichever team needs them the most, but generally speaking, France is on the Allied team. Now, with that being said, I'm going to throw up a couple pictures here of what the tech trees look like, and hopefully kind of get an idea of where the problem lies. Here in the American tree, we have the F-104A, the F-104C, the F-100, the AV-8 Harrier, and the F-4C. None of the planes I just listed have a chance in flying hell at competing against a Mig-21 BIS. Now, moving on to Japan, we have a whole bunch of other bullshit planes that fill up the Matchmaker for MiG food. You know, we have the F-104J, the T-2, and the F-1. All 3 of those planes really don't stand a chance fighting MiG-21 BISs, like the F-4E and the F-4EJ do. Taking a look at France, we have the Jaguar A, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, you have the Mirage, and the Mirage is totally capable of competing at top tier. And now we move on to the Axis side, starting with Germany. You have a MiG-21 MF, which is completely capable of competing with F4s and MiG-21 BISs, and then you have an F-104G, which is definitely one of the better F-104G or F-104s, but it's not up there with the MiG-21 and the F-4. But still, a lot less clutter of bullshit planes between that competitive, F4E, MiG-21 BIS, J-35, and Mirage. Those are the 4 planes at top tier that are actually, competitive. When you get to things like the F-104s and all the other planes I've been listing up to this point, they kind of just get in the way of you actually being competitive. If you have a full team of F4s and a full team of MiGs, the F4s have a really damn good chance of winning. Definitely, the MiGs don't have an 80% chance of beating a full team of F4s. That's pretty much the point I'm trying to make here. And this goes on for the Russians too. You look at the Russians, you have MiG-21 SMTs, MiG-21 BISs, and then you have some Su-7s and, the Yak-38. Stuff like that. You're really not going to see any of those 9.7 planes. I know I mentioned the Harrier, and the F-100. Either way, moving on into Sweden and Britain. With the Swedish, you have pretty much just the J-35 Draken. That's pretty much all you're going to be seeing. J-32s aren't flown out that much. And then with Britain, you have the FGR-2, the FG-1, the Jaguar, and that's just about all you're going to see. Maybe some Hunters once in a while. But regardless, my point I'm trying to make here is that the MiGs have a lot less inferior planes on their team than the Allies do. On the Allied side, you're often going to get games like this that I'm going to throw up on screen right here. You can see a whole bunch of planes that really don't belong at this battle rating, and then they're going to go up against a full team of pretty much MiG-21s, and yeah, of course they're getting slaughtered. But that's not the fault of the MiG-21 BIS. I certainly don't think it's overpowered, which a lot of people in the community are crying out right now. They think that the MiG-21 BIS is broken and it deserves a 25,000 repair cost, Silverline repair cost. That just makes no sense to me. Anyways, I hope you guys got some of these points here. I know I wasn't the most organized with my arguments, and I paused a lot. That's just because I was looking at my notes and whatnot, so apologize for that. But yeah, basically, I think that the F4 is a much more capable plane than the MiG-21 is. A lot of F4 pilots would disagree with me on that, but a lot of F4 pilots are also bad at the game, so it makes sense. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something from the video. And as always, I hope I'll see you on the next one. See ya.